On today's episode of PhotoKitchen, I take the DJI Pocket Osmo 3 on a train, on a plane, and even in a gondola. Hello and welcome to episode 97 of PhotoKitchen. I'm your humble host, MD Welch, and today on the menu, we're talking about the DJI Pocket Osmo 3. That is a mouthful, but this camera is really worthy of all that tongue-twisting goodness. So many features, so many functions. And to be honest with you, you probably know all about that. First of all, this is 2 years too late. I've had this camera for a while and it had been out for a while before I purchased it. So I apologize. I don't know what I was doing. Well, I know what I was doing. I was shooting with this lovely little device. But you've probably seen 5 to 8 to 10 videos on YouTube already talking about all the features and all the functionality of this. And honestly, I don't know if I could really go any deeper than those videos probably have already done. This camera is very easy to operate. It's very easy to use. So I need to do it some justice. I need to put it through its paces outside of the normal realms of the PhotoKitchen. So what do we say we take this on the road, a little PhotoKitchen to go. Let's head out the door.
The next station is Tokyo.
So it goes without saying that the DJI Pocket Osmo 3, DJI, because I keep saying DJI, that's my curse, hands down is my favorite camera. There's so many reasons for it, and you can watch all the YouTube videos on all the specs. I'm recording 4K right now, handheld, facial tracking, and the camera is magnificent. It's handling it all. I could kind of move around, and the gimbal's gonna follow me. It's really simple. It's also really small, and that's what I love about it. And honestly, if I have to have one camera to travel with, this is it. I mean, this is not going around in Africa and doing all those other kind of crazy high-end telephoto, wide landscape stuff. This is like an in-between. Kind of feel like full frame. It's somewhere between 20 to 40-ish millimeters on the lens. I could be wrong about that, but it is certainly a nice all-around travel camera. Blogging, that kind of stuff, vlogging, those things, it's perfect for that. But it is a small, simple package. And you can make it as small as you want to. I have it in its original configuration. There's no external battery pack. There's no tripod legs here. I'm just hand holding it. And of course, the DJI wireless mic here does a fantastic job of recording audio. It's just an all-in-one package. If I have to leave the house with the camera, this is the camera. If I got to do on-site recording, this is it. In fact, the more that I use this camera, the more I look at my other cameras and go, I need to have that camera. So it's fantastic. I mean, walking the streets of Shinjuku in Tokyo, I don't feel like I'm really causing a lot of issues or problems. Of course, it's not super busy streets. That's why I've elected to do it early in the morning. But I think it's also better than using your phone on, say, one of the Osmo gimbals, which I have at home and I had for about a year. And I didn't like that at all. In fact, I felt like that was a terrible purchase. And I'm sitting around gathering dust somewhere in my house, then I just need to find somebody to take it off my hands. This, on the other hand, this is brilliant. This is amazing. And put a 256 gigabyte card in here. You got about 8 hours of shooting. Of course, you have still footage in here. I'm doing everything in landscape and 4K. When you go into portrait mode, you're in 3K for video. Not the end of the world, right? Beautiful small package, and it makes this kind of portable recording super easy to do. Sorry to interrupt my little walkie-talkie on the streets of Tokyo, but I do want to take a quick moment to talk about the still photography part of this amazing little camera, because a lot of times people will say, well, how good of a still camera is it? It is definitely a very strong video camera. I think that's where the strengths of this camera are. But as far as a still camera goes, how does it compare to another camera? So I did take a Sony camera with me, an A7R Mark IV. So we're talking about 60th megapixels. And this is a shot from that camera compared to a shot from the Osmo. Now, both of these images have nothing done to them, including cropping and straightening, and I was shooting them from the same location. Not great, but you could certainly see that the DJI is a little bit more contrasty. The shadows are a little bit chunkier. This could also do with metering as well, and I think the Sony handled this a lot better. Now, for a better apples to apples comparison, here's another shot that I did where this is the Sony and then this is the DJI.
DJI. And I will say, as far as like daylight goes, just like a camera phone, the camera here, the DJI really excels in big, bright daylight. I think it does a great job. And I think that it is a very good photo, especially compared to the Sony. In fact, maybe even just a touch better than the Sony as well. Now, as far as detail though, that is where it kind of falls apart. If you look at how far I could zoom in with the Sony, you could see all of this detail. You expect that it's 61 megapixels, 61 megapixels. But if you go to the DJI, that's zoomed in at 100%. So this is the zoom out, this is the zoom in. And to go one step further, I'll hop over here to Photoshop and we'll take a quick look. And you could see that if you were to make a print of this and you needed it to be 300 pixels per inch, and I've talked about resolution in another video many, many years ago, you don't need 300 pixels per inch, but I'm just putting this up here. You would get about a 12 or 13 by 7. Now, you certainly could blow this up even more. So I would say for like a travel book or slideshows, or you're doing digital content only, more than enough information for you to be able to use these images in video and in digital presentations. I think those of you that do fine art printing or travel photography printing, you're definitely going to still want to take your regular camera. And I did take my regular camera, but it is something to think about. I think video is its strong suit. I think photo is good, but not great.
One other thing to stress about the DJI Pocket Osmo, I'm going to finally get these 3 letters right, is that it has a magnetic face attachment. So right now I have put the camera into kind of a manual mode. I'm in auto ISO. I've limited the ISO, I think, to 2500, and of course going as low as it needs to, but the shutter speed is at 1/50th of a second. So this is as cinematic as I could kind of make this. But as you can see, it's very bright in the background. I look actually pretty good for exposure, but everything else is very bright. But with the magnetic attachments, you could do something really nice by adding different types of filters, ND filters, polarizers, circular polarizers, soft mist, and so forth. So here's a 256. There we go. And now you can see the difference. Now, unfortunately, I left or lost my previous Osmo with a 128, which was kind of my ideal every day. The 256 is great for where I normally live, bright, open Nevada sun. But here, it's probably a little dark. Might have to lighten this up in post, but you can definitely see the city and everything in the background. The nice thing about the camera system is that inside this case that comes with, that holds just the kind of standard camera here, they have 2 spots that will hold onto the magnetic attachments. So you can put 2 of these magnetic attachments on there. Now, all sorts of companies sell them. DJI sells them, of course, but I have gone with free view, something like that. I'd have to look it up. I've done a thing on TikTok, which is my most popular video on TikTok, which might be dead by this particular point as I'm releasing this. But nevertheless, those magnetic attachments have been great. I'll put a link in my description below for those. I think that's an essential accessory when traveling. The circular polarizer is great, but the magnetic attachments make it really easy. My only advice is it's hard to take them on and off when you're running and gunning. It's almost impossible to do with gloves, so do keep that in mind. Also, they will get dirty easily. I'm sure this is smudged up to heck already, so keep that in mind. Have a microfiber cloth maybe in your pocket just to brush it off. And I haven't really seen a big difference because it's kind of a pain with power on and off, but probably power off is the best time to do it, other than putting them on really quick when you're walking through a crosswalk in Tokyo, Japan.
Sorry to interrupt again, but I do want to talk about another favorite feature of mine of this little camera, and that's the pano feature. Now, I don't think this is a great panoramic camera, but it's great in tight locations. This is the post office in Mexico City. No post office has a right to look this good, but they decided to do that in Mexico City. Now, what the camera does is it takes a sequence of photos and it uses the gimbal to move the camera around to give you different areas of the image to stitch together, 9 specifically. Now, I stitched them together inside of Lightroom Classic, or you could stitch them together in Photoshop. The camera will also stitch them together as well and do a pretty good result. So if you wanted to immediately post, which I did from this trip, it does a very good job of that. Now, is it a perfect camera? No, but here's the thing. In this particular location, there were people coming in and out constantly. There was no way to set up a tripod or anything like that. So For a quick and dirty panoramic camera, this feature is absolutely amazing, and yet another reason why it's one of my favorite cameras, if not my favorite travel camera that's ever been made. Well, that wraps up our video, and I'm going to wrap things up by just demonstrating again how amazing this little camera is, being able to show you and capture great footage of the longest gondola line in the world. This is actually from Mexico City, part of their public transportation system. Not a tourist thing, this is how people get around this particular area. Longest and second longest gondola line in the world. But you can see how easy it is to shoot with this camera, being able to put it into tight spaces, grab great footage. I couldn't do this with any other camera that I own. So while maybe the quality of this camera isn't the best compared to some other cameras out there, it's definitely good enough, especially if you're in tight situations you can't bring a lot of gear. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please hit like if you did, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, share this with those who are thinking about purchasing this camera, and until next time, I'm MD Welch wishing you all the best from the longest gondola line in the world, and also PhotoKitchen.